Welcome, photographers. Today, we're going to learn the fundamental concept in photography, the exposure triangle. Understanding this will help you control the brightness and clarity of your photos. Once you master the exposure triangle, you will reach a higher level in your photography. Let's get started. The exposure in photography is essentially the level of light you allow by darkening or brightening the image. It is the overall amount of light that reaches your camera's sensor, creating a photograph. You want just the right amount of light to create a well-exposed image. Too bright? Your photo is overexposed. Too dark? Your photo is underexposed. The exposure triangle is how all cameras increase or decrease the brightness. It's called a triangle because it involves the three elements of aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Remember, photography is all about light, how much aperture, and how fast shutter speed. As you can see from the illustration, when you focus your camera, the camera is adjusting for focus and metering for exposure. As you practice with aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, you will learn how balancing the three images quality will improve. Essentially, the aperture and shutter speed work together to get the correct exposure. ISO is only adjusted when there is not enough existing light. Let me explain using your eyes as a comparison. If you're in a well-lit area and walk into a dark room, the pupil of your eye widens, letting in more light. Your eye adjusts to the light and things become slightly more visible. But it's not as clear as when in good light. It's a little distorted and grainy. Essentially, your eyes are adjusting the sensitivity of available light. When you return to the well-lit area, your pupil gets smaller and your eyelid blinks until your eyes are adjusted to the correct exposure. Let's take a deeper dive in each, starting with aperture. The aperture not only controls how much light is allowed to reach the sensor, but it also controls how deep you want the area of focus before and after your focus point. This is known as the depth of field. But that can be confusing. Think of it as depth of focus. The wider the aperture, the shorter the depth of focus. This is indicated by f numbers. f4 is wider than f22. I know that sounds counterintuitive because the smaller the number, the bigger the opening. The f stands for focal ratio. Here's a mind trick to help you remember how f-stops work. Think of f as fraction where 1 is a whole, 2 is a half, 4 is a quarter, and so on. As the number fraction of a whole is added, it gets smaller. The bigger the number, smaller the opening, the deeper the depth of focus before and after your point of focus. This is somewhat simplified, but controlling light and range of focus are the primary functions of aperture. You can control the aperture when camera mode is set to manual or aperture. Next, we'll move on to shutter speed. Similar to aperture, we're going to think of the shutter speed numbers as fractions, meaning 1/60th allows more light than 1/1000th because the shutter is open longer. Like the shutters or blinds on a window, if you open and closes them slowly at 1/60th of a second, you let in more light than if you opened and closed them in 1/1000th of a second. The shutter speed has two primary functions. It controls the amount of light allowed to hit the sensor and also controls amount of motion. Remember, something is always moving, either your subject or your camera. The faster the shutter speed, the less camera shake and the sharper the image. For example, if you want to photograph a large bird in flight, you would need a shutter speed around 1/4000th to freeze the flight. For a smaller bird, you would need something at 1/6000th or higher. Of course, this varies on lighting conditions, background, etc. But I think you get the idea. If you want to photograph firework displays in the night sky, you would use a slower shutter speed of 1 to 3 seconds. You can control the shutter speed when your camera mode is set to manual or shutter. Let's move on to ISO. The last function of the exposure triangle is ISO, which stands for International Standards Organization. To help us understand its purpose, let's change the meaning to image sensitivity option. So, if you have your aperture wide open around f4 and your shutter speed as low as possible around 1/60th to avoid camera shake and you're still underexposed, you need to change the sensitivity by increasing the ISO number to allow more light. But this comes with a trade-off. The higher the number, the more noise you get in your image. This compromises the quality of your photograph. Although, Post-editing can help. You want to get it the best you can in camera for the best image quality. Now that you have a better understanding of the exposure triangle, let's put it into practice. It's time to practice what you learned. To understand how aperture, shutter speed, and ISO work together to adjust brightness, focus, and motion in your image, you need to experience it with your camera. Start by putting your camera in manual mode and choose a subject and take 3 sets of photos. Photo 1, in a well-lit area, preferably outside, set the ISO to 200 and adjust the aperture and shutter speed to the center point in your light meter. Next, do the same, but change the ISO to 6000. Review the quality of both images. Photo 2, set the aperture to f4 and adjust the shutter speed and ISO to the center point in your light meter. Next, do the same, but change the aperture to f22. Review the depth of focus in front of and behind your subject of both images. Photo 3. Photograph a moving automobile without panning and set the shutter speed to 1/60th and adjust the aperture and ISO to the center point in your light meter. Next, do the same, but change the shutter speed to 1/4000th. Review the focus of your subject of both images. You have now learned how independently changing aperture, shutter speed, and ISO affects exposure and image quality. Remember, the only way to get better with photography is repetition. Imagine how good you'd be in a year from now if you took only 10 photos a day. We hope you found this micro lesson helpful. To continue your photography journey, please visit us at seacoastphotographyschool.com. We offer one-on-one and group lessons. One of our most popular programs is the 6 weeks from beginner to advanced, which is live online. In this program, we take you through the camera, types of lenses, and essential gear. You'll learn about focus, motion, light, composition, and color. You'll take your pictures from the weekly practices, and we will guide you in a step-by-step editing process in Lightroom. In the final week, we teach you how to easily create your own website to build a portfolio of your amazing images. Be sure to subscribe at our website to get updates of upcoming workshops. If you're the adventurous type, sign up for our multi-day workshops at the best destinations to capture amazing shots. All of our in-person workshops and online courses are provided by qualified instructors who explain photography terms and concepts in easy-to-understand language. We look forward to helping you take your photography to the next level.